All right, listeners, buckle up, because today we're diving deep into the world of power and strategy with Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power.
Ooh, this one is a classic. It's been called a guidebook for, well, everything from climbing the corporate ladder to just navigating social situations, really.
Yeah, it's one of those books that gets people talking.
Yeah.
And you sent in a ton of excerpts, which tells me you guys are fascinated by this stuff.
And for good reason. I mean, Greene doesn't hold back, does he? He really delves into the more cunning side of human nature.
Totally. And he does it through these historical stories and figures that are so captivating, sometimes a little unsettling. Like, take Count Lustig. Have you heard of him?
Count Lustig, the con man, of course, the guy who sold the Eiffel Tower. Not once, but twice.
Twice? I mean, that's how good he was at creating this aura of power.
Oh, yeah. He knew how to work the system. He knew how to make people believe he had influence, even when he didn't.
Which brings us to one of the first laws we wanted to unpack. Law 6, court attention at all cost. Greene argues that being seen, being talked about, even being a little notorious, it's all part of the game.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it kind of makes you think about all those influencers and personalities out there today who thrive on controversy.
Oh, for sure. It's like they're living proof that this law still holds up. Think of any politician who says something outrageous, grabs headlines. Whether you agree with them or not, they get that attention.
That they do. And it all goes back to image. Like, so much of power is actually about perception, isn't it?
It makes you question, like, what's real power?
It's a good question. Now, another law that plays into this whole perception game is Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. This one's a classic power move, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. A little ruthless, but a classic. I've seen this so many times, though I won't name names.
Oh, we've all seen it. Think of Thomas Edison, the genius inventor.
Oh, yeah, Edison. But didn't he, have a whole team working for him?
He did. And, well, he wasn't always so generous about sharing the credit, like with Tesla and the development of the AC system. Tesla did a lot of the heavy lifting, but it was Edison who ended up getting the accolades, right?
Yeah, history remembers Edison. And this law, it isn't just about stealing credit. It's about understanding how to use other people's skills to your advantage.
Exactly. Leverage their talent. Think of ghostwriting. You have all these powerful people putting their names on books, but who's really doing the writing?
That is a good question. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim.
Ooh, this is a fascinating one. It's all about using kindness, even honesty, strategically, almost like lowering people's defenses to make them more, let's say, susceptible.
Right. It's like that idea that you want to keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Exactly. And who better to illustrate this than Count Lustig, our Eiffel Tower friend?
Oh, he's good at this.
A master. He would express concern for his victims, even be reluctant to, sell the tower, all just to make the whole scam seem more legit.
So he was basically weaponizing honesty.
In a way, yes. It's a bit chilling when you think about it. It makes you question people's motives, doesn't it?
It does. Like, how do you tell when someone's being genuine versus when they're trying to play you?
That's the million-dollar question. And this is where Greene's work gets really interesting, I think. He's not telling you to do these things, but he's showing you how they're done.
Okay, next up, Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. This sounds like it's straight out of a negotiation handbook.
It's a very practical law, for sure. And Greene makes a strong point that people are more likely to help you if it benefits them.
It's not about altruism, then.
Not in this case. He gives the example of Athens deciding to ally with Corcyra during that big war.
They weren't just being friendly.
Not exactly. They saw Corcyra as strategically important, a good naval base. It was all about self-interest, really. And it worked.
I guess it shows you have to understand what makes people tick, what motivates them. If you figure that out, you can be a lot more persuasive.
Exactly. You got to know your audience, right?
Okay, let's talk espionage. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. This one has a real cloak and dagger feel to it.
Well, it's all about information. Greene is basically saying you need to know what your rivals, your opponents are up to. Gather intelligence, figure out their strengths, their weaknesses.
Like in chess, right. Got to anticipate your opponent's moves.
Exactly. And this is more relevant today than ever. Think of all the data collection going on, corporate espionage, the blurring lines of privacy. It's all happening.
It's a little unsettling, isn't it? To think about how much data is out there, how it's being used.
It is. But Greene's point is that this is the reality of how power works, especially in this hyper-connected world.
So we've talked about attention, image, understanding your opponents. But Greene also cautions against becoming too isolated, right?
Right, right. That's where Law 18 comes in. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous, sounds counterintuitive, but he argues that isolating yourself can make you more vulnerable.
It's because you're cut off, right? You don't know what's happening.
Exactly. And he contrasts this with Louis XIV, the Sun King. That palace at Versailles, it seems like the ultimate fortress.
Yeah, Versailles, all that opulence.
But Greene points out that Louis used Versailles to actually keep everyone close. He could keep an eye on them, prevent plots. So it was a fortress, but it was also a kind of a gilded cage.
Wow. So like he was avoiding isolation, but in a way he was controlling everything.
It's true. And it makes you think about how the internet and social media have kind of created this digital Versailles. We're constantly connected, constantly sharing.
And we're always being watched. It's a weird balance, right? Connection versus privacy.
Very weird. Like, are we truly connected or just more isolated in a way?
Mind-blowing stuff. All right, hit me with some more Machiavellian wisdom. What else does Greene have up his sleeve?
Well, let's look at Law 28. Enter action with boldness. A good one, right?
Oh, yeah. Decisive action. I like the sound of that.
Greene's argument here is that hesitation often gets seen as weakness. People who act decisively, they command more respect. People gravitate towards confidence.
It's true. There's something magnetic about someone who just, goes for it.
Right, and he illustrates this with Pietro Aretino, this Renaissance writer who basically went from, a nobody to one of the most influential figures of his time.
Wow, that's a glow-up. How'd he pull that off?
Aretino. He was a master of self-promotion, wasn't afraid to speak his mind, challenged authority. He even used satire and humor to get his point across.
It's kind of inspiring, actually. We all hold ourselves back sometimes. Maybe a little more boldness would do us all some good.
Maybe. But, boldness without any strategy, that can be dangerous. It's all about choosing the right moment, the right approach.
Right. Got to be smart about it.
Speaking of smart, let's get a little, let's say, manipulative. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew.
Uh-oh. Thumbscrew. Sounds painful.
Well, Greene's idea here is that everyone has a weakness, a vulnerability, something they're desperate to protect or hide. Could be greed, vanity, insecurity, whatever. It's their thumbscrew.
So it's about finding that weakness and using it to your advantage.
Basically. And of course, there are ethical considerations here. Greene even cautions against using this law for purely selfish reasons. But the point is, this is how power dynamics often work, like it or not.
Yeah, it's like in those movies where the villain figures out the hero's one weakness.
Exactly, and then exploits it. Greene talks about Daniel Drew, a financier who manipulated the stock market. Played on people's greed and fear. Sound familiar?
It does, a little too familiar.
Right. It's about understanding those deep motivations, those buttons you can push.
So self-awareness is key here. The more you know yourself, the less likely you are to be manipulated.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, what about those times when it's better to just let go, walk away?
Oh, yeah. I need this lesson.
Greene has us covered. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge.
Ooh, I like that. Acceptance. Moving on, not dwelling.
It's about recognizing that fixating on what you can't have it amplifies it, gives it power over you.
Right, like when you try to force something that just isn't meant to be, you get nowhere.
Greene tells a great story about Aretino, our audacious writer. When his enemies exposed that he was, faking his noble lineage, he didn't deny it.
Wait, he lied about being an aristocrat? What did he do when they called him out?
He owned it. He made fun of himself, wrote satirical poems about his noble ancestors.
He turned it into a joke.
He did. And it totally disarmed his critics. It's a great example of choosing your battles.
So sometimes the best response is no response.
It's true. All right, ready for a reality check. Law 40. Despise the free lunch.
Ooh, I have a feeling I'm not going to like this one.
I love free stuff.
Well, Greene is basically saying that nothing's truly free. There are always strings attached.
Oh no, my freebie-loving heart.
It's tough, I know. But he tells this great story about, who else? Count Lustig, who this time cons a businessman with a money-duplicating machine. A what?
A machine that could copy banknotes. He offered it to the businessman for free.
I'm already skeptical.
As you should be. Of course there was a catch. The machine needed special chemicals, you see, which the businessman had to buy.
Oh, classic. So he pays a fortune for these chemicals.
He does. And, of course, the machine is a fake. Lustig walks away with a nice profit, leaving the businessman with a bunch of useless chemicals in a lighter wallet.
That's brutal. And this law isn't just about scams, right? It's about being aware of the hidden costs and everything, like those free apps and services we all use.
Exactly. Are they really free if we're paying with our data, our attention? It's a question worth asking.
You're making me rethink my whole digital life right now.
Okay, let's talk legacy. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. This one has to be tough, right?
Oh, yeah. The pressure to live up to someone else's accomplishments, it must be immense.
Greene says it's almost always a recipe for disaster. He compares Louis XIV, the Sun King, to his successor, Louis the Tick Thief.
Louis XIV, he set the bar pretty high, didn't he?
Yeah.
Versailles, all that.
Oh, he did. Absolute power, extravagance. It was a tough act to follow. And Louis XV, even though he had a different style, he was constantly being compared to his grandfather. And he just couldn't measure up.
So he was doomed from the start.
In a way, yes. Greene's point is that when you're following a legend, you're always in their shadow. So what's the solution?
I'm all ears.
Forge your own path. Find your own strengths. Don't try to be a carbon copy.
Be your own person.
Exactly. Okay, on to Law 46. Never appear too perfect.
Oh, interesting. So it's about not making others feel bad, like less than.
It's more about understanding that appearing flawless, it can actually backfire, make you a target.
People get jealous.
They do. They look for flaws, ways to bring you down. Greene tells this story about Michelangelo and his rivalry with Bramante. Bramante was so envious of Michelangelo's talent.
This is Michelangelo, the artist.
The one and only. So when the Pope commissions Michelangelo to paint the Sistine Chapel, Bramante tries to sabotage him.
No way. The Sistine Chapel. That's like iconic.
It is. And Bramante tells the Pope that Michelangelo can't paint, that it'll be a disaster. He wants Michelangelo to fail spectacularly.
Oh, that's low. What happened?
Michelangelo, being the genius he is, he sees right through it. He understands that Bramante is jealous, and he uses that as motivation. He puts everything he has into the project.
And creates a masterpiece.
He does. So, the lesson here. Be mindful of how your success might be perceived. Don't rub it in people's faces.
Stay humble, but also, own your accomplishments.
Exactly. Okay, last one for today. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop.
So it's about knowing when to quit while you're ahead.
That's a good way to put it. Excessive ambition can be dangerous. Greene uses the example of Cyrus the Great. Brilliant military leader, conquered a ton of territory. He got overconfident, kept pushing and pushing his army, spread his resources too thin. His empire became too big to manage.
So his ambition led to his downfall.
You could say that. It's a reminder to set clear goals, consolidate your wins, and don't get greedy. Know when to walk away.
That's wise advice.
It is. All right, one final thought, and this is a big one. Law 48. Assume formlessness.
Formlessness, that's abstract.
It is. It's about adaptability, being flexible in a world that's constantly changing. Greene talks about Japan, historically a very insular society.
Oh yeah, I know a bit about Japanese history. Very unique culture.
They were. But when faced with Western influence, they had to adapt. They embraced some Western ideas, technology, but they did it in a way that preserved their own identity.
So they learned and changed, but didn't lose themselves.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between change and continuity. Bending, but not breaking.
That's like a willow tree.
I like that.
Wow, okay, my brain is full. So much to unpack here.
We've covered a lot, but remember, these laws, they're not about becoming some, Machiavellian manipulator. They're about understanding how power works so you can navigate the world more effectively.
Be a player, not a pawn, right?
You got it. And with that, I think we need a break. But don't worry, we've got more laws to explore in our next deep dive. Stay tuned.
Can't wait. Listeners, stay curious and stay powerful. We'll be back soon.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the 48 Laws of Power. We're picking up where we left off with Robert Greene's insights into strategy and, human nature.
Yeah, my head is still spinning from all the laws we unpacked in the last part. I'm ready for more, though. Bring on the Machiavellian wisdom.
All right, you asked for it. Let's jump into some laws that are all about navigating those tricky relationships and building a powerful reputation.
Sounds good to me. Let's hear it.
Okay, so first up we have Law 1. Never outshine the master. This one is particularly relevant in the workplace, especially if you've ever had a, shall we say, demanding boss.
Oh, yeah, I think we've all been there. Gotta love those bosses with the fragile egos.
Greene's point here is that, yes, it's important to showcase your skills, be an asset, but you don't want to make your superiors feel threatened.
So it's like, impress them, but not too much.
It's a delicate balance, for sure. He actually suggests that you should make your masters appear more brilliant, even if it means downplaying your own achievements.
Oof, that's a tough one. Especially if you're ambitious, you want to climb that ladder.
I know, it can be hard. But Greene argues that if you outshine your master, you risk triggering their envy. And that can backfire big time. They might see you as competition and try to sabotage you.
So play the long game. Build trust. Stay under the radar for a bit.
Exactly. He actually uses Michelangelo and Pope Julius II to illustrate this. Remember their little power struggle?
Oh yeah, Michelangelo and the Pope. Didn't they clash over the design of the Pope's tomb?
They did. Michelangelo, brilliant artist, strong will, he wasn't afraid to challenge the Pope, which, well, didn't always go over well.
I can imagine. I don't think the Pope was used to being questioned.
Probably not. But the interesting thing is that despite their conflicts, Michelangelo understood that he couldn't completely outshine his patron. He had to find ways to, well, stroke the Pope's ego a bit.
Clever.
It was strategic. So the takeaway here, sometimes you have to play the game to get ahead. Put your ego aside. Master this law and you can avoid those unnecessary conflicts with those in power.
It's all about strategy.
It is. Okay, ready for a controversial one. Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies.
Whoa, okay. That sounds a little harsh, doesn't it? I mean, aren't friends supposed to be the people you can rely on?
Of course. True friendships are valuable. But Greene is talking about power dynamics here and how even close friends can become, well, liabilities.
So he's saying friends can be just as dangerous as enemies? I'm curious, why does he think that?
Because they know you. They know your weaknesses, your insecurities, and sometimes they might be tempted to use that knowledge against you. Maybe not intentionally, but it happens.
Like a twisted version of keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Right. He even suggests that enemies can be more useful because they keep you sharp. You have to be strategic, vigilant.
So like a frenemy, someone who pushes you to be better.
In a way, yeah. Greene also says that sometimes you can turn enemies into allies. Find common ground. It's all about being flexible.
It's like that saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Okay, I'm starting to see his point. Relationships are complex.
They are, especially when power is involved. Now, speaking of power, let's move on to Law 3. Conceal your intentions.
Ooh, I like this one. Be mysterious, keep people guessing.
It's about strategic ambiguity. If your rivals don't know your true goals, well, they can't really stop you, can they?
You have the element of surprise.
Exactly. The less they know, the better. It's like poker. Don't show your hand too early.
So it's not about being deceptive. It's about being, I don't know, calculated.
Calculated disclosure. I like that. You control the information, release it strategically, shape those perceptions.
Mind games.
You could say that. Greene uses the example of Otto von Bismarck, you know, the guy who unified Germany. He was a master at this.
Bismarck, yeah. He was known for being, well, pretty cunning.
He was. He knew that if he revealed his true intentions too early, everyone would team up against him. So he used misdirection, leaked false information, even pretended to be weak sometimes.
So he was playing everyone.
He was. And he won. It shows that perception is often more important than reality. Control the perception, control the game.
Wow. Okay, this is getting deep. So we've talked about managing relationships. But Greene also stresses the importance of protecting your reputation, right?
Absolutely. Law 5. So much depends on reputation guarding. Guard it with your life. This one is huge.
Yeah, your reputation is everything, isn't it? It's how people see you, how they judge you.
It's your currency. It's what allows you to build trust, credibility, influence. Think of it as your brand.
Your personal brand. I like that.
It's about aligning your actions with your words, being consistent, reliable, competent. Greene highlights Zhuge Liang, this brilliant strategist in ancient China. He was known for his wisdom, his integrity.
People respected him.
They did, even his enemies. His reputation preceded him, gave him a kind of moral authority. People trusted him, followed him.
So a good reputation can make you a leader.
Exactly. But a bad one, that can be devastating. It's like a stain that's hard to get rid of.
So protect your reputation at all costs.
Wise words. But here's the twist. Greene also says that understanding how reputation works can be used strategically, even to undermine your rival.
Okay, that sounds a little shady. How so?
Well, let's take a look at Law 15. Crush your enemy. Totally. Now this one sounds pretty intense.
Crush your enemy. Yikes.
It does sound harsh, doesn't it? But Greene argues that when you're dealing with a real enemy, someone who poses a serious threat, you have to be decisive.
So no mercy.
He believes that a wounded enemy can be a dangerous enemy. They might come back to haunt you later. It's better to, well, make a clean break, ensure they can't recover.
So finish them off.
Yeah.
That seems a bit extreme.
He uses the example of Scipio Africanus, the Roman general who defeated Hannibal.
Or Hannibal, yeah. Wasn't he the one who, like, marched elephants over the Alps?
That's the one. Brilliant military strategist, gave the Romans a run for their money. But Scipio, he knew that just defeating Hannibal in battle wasn't enough. He had to destroy Hannibal's reputation, his ability to wage war.
So he had to make an example of him.
He did. Drove him into exile, made sure he could never threaten Rome again. It was a total victory.
I guess in the world of power, there's no room for sentimentality. Sometimes you have to be ruthless.
It's a tough lesson, but maybe a necessary one. All right, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about actions versus words.
Okay, I'm listening.
This is Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. I think this one speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's like that saying, actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. Greene believes that arguing, even if you win the argument, it can actually weaken your position, make you look defensive, insecure.
It's like trying to force someone to agree with you.
It is. It just doesn't work. It's much more powerful to just act. Show people who you are, what you're capable of.
So let your actions speak for themselves.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And when it comes to dealing with difficult people, difficult situations, he actually advocates for silence.
Silence?
Yeah.
Really? How does that work?
It's about taking away their power. When you refuse to engage, you maintain your composure. You don't let them get under your skin.
It's like you're not giving them the satisfaction of a reaction.
Exactly. And it can be incredibly powerful. He tells this great story about Zhuge Liang, our brilliant strategist from before. His army was surrounded, vastly outnumbered.
Oh no, what did he do?
He did something completely unexpected. He'd ordered his troops to open the city gates, take down their flags, hide.
Wait, so he just surrendered?
Not quite. He stayed visible, just sat on the city wall calmly playing his lute, like nothing was wrong.
He was bluffing.
He was, and it worked. The enemy general, Sima Yi, he was known for being cautious. When he saw this, he assumed it was a trap.
He thought it was too good to be true.
Exactly. He overthought it, became paralyzed by indecision, and Zhuge Liang, he just slipped away.
Wow, that's incredible. It shows that sometimes the most powerful action is no action.
It's a powerful reminder. Silence is a weapon. All right, I think we burn a break after that one. We've covered some intense stuff today. Reputation, actions, silence. It's a lot to process.
Yeah, my mind is officially blown. It's like I'm seeing the world with new eyes now.
That's the point. Remember, knowledge is power, but only if you use it wisely.
I'm definitely feeling more informed and a little more cautious about how power plays out in my own life.
That's a good thing. Awareness is the first step.
Okay, so what's next on our Machiavellian adventure? What other laws await us?
That, my friend, is a tale for our next deep dive. Until then, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay powerful.
Okay, I'm back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Phew, we've covered some serious ground, from deception to reputation. It's been quite a ride.
It has. And today, well, we've got some more fascinating laws to explore, ones that I think will really resonate with anyone who's trying to navigate the complexities of power dynamics.
I'm all ears. Let's hear it. What does Greene have in store for us today?
Let's talk about the power of emotions, or rather, the power of controlling emotions.
Controlling emotions. You mean like keeping your cool under pressure?
That's part of it, yes. But it's also about understanding how emotions can be used strategically, both your own and those of others. It's a key part of Law 25. Recreate yourself.
Recreate yourself. Okay, that sounds pretty intense. Is this about, like, personal transformation or something?
You could say that. Greene argues that we're all playing roles to some extent, and those who master the art of self-presentation, they have a real advantage when it comes to wielding power.
So it's about being aware of the image you're projecting, shaping it to achieve your goals.
Exactly. Remember, perception is often reality. Those who control the narrative, they control the power. It's about understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, and crafting an image that highlights, the best parts of you.
It's like personal branding, but with a Machiavellian edge.
I like that. And Greene uses Julius Caesar as an example. I mean, talk about a master of self-presentation.
Oh, yeah. Caesar. Brilliant general, charismatic leader. He was larger than life.
He was. But he was also incredibly aware of how he was perceived. He cultivated this image of strength, decisiveness, charisma. It helped him rally support, intimidate his rivals.
So he was playing a role to some extent.
Perhaps. But he played it so well that it became his reality. He understood that power is often about theater, creating a compelling spectacle.
It's like he was a one-man show. commanding the stage of Roman politics.
Exactly. And this principle applies to all of us, and not just leaders and politicians. Anyone who wants to make an impact, to have influence.
So be mindful of the image you're projecting. Make it work for you.
Now, while it's important to control your own emotions, Greene also says you got to understand the emotions of others and, well, maybe even manipulate them a little.
Okay, now we're getting into tricky territory. How do you even approach that ethically?
Well, Greene believes that emotions are powerful tools. They can be used for good or bad. But those who can control the emotional temperature of a room, so to speak, they have a distinct advantage.
So it's about being emotionally intelligent.
Exactly. Recognizing how your words, your actions impact others. And also understanding that emotions are contagious. If you project confidence and calmness, it can actually rub off on those around you.
So like a ripple effect.
Precisely. But the opposite is true too, right? When you lose your cool, you lose control. And when you lose control, you lose power. Greene tells this story about Alcibiades, an Athenian general, brilliant but impulsive.
I'm sensing a but coming.
Well, he was known for making enemies. He was unpredictable, volatile, but he used that to his advantage. He knew how to play on people's emotions, stir up passions, create chaos.
Sounds like a bit of a loose cannon.
He was, but he understood that emotions can cloud judgment, make people act irrationally, and he exploited that.
So the takeaway here, be aware of your own emotional triggers. And be wary of those who might try to play on your emotions.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, ready to talk timing.
Timing. You mean like knowing when to make a move?
Precisely. Greene believes timing is crucial. There's a right time to act, a right time to wait, and a right time to withdraw.
So it's about being patient, strategic, not rushing into things.
Exactly. He uses Napoleon as an example. The guy was a master of timing. He knew that sometimes waiting for the right moment to strike was more important than having a bigger army.
So it's about being opportunistic, like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to pounce.
Perfect analogy. And this applies to any kind of power struggle, whether it's in business, politics, or even your personal life. Know when to assert yourself and when to hold back.
Be patient, but also be ready to seize the opportunity when it arises. Okay, I'm getting it. Is there one final piece of wisdom that Greene offers? Like a grand finale to our exploration of power?
I think there is, and it's a big one. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability.
Unpredictability. Hold on. Isn't it better to be consistent, reliable?
In most cases, yes. But when it comes to power, predictability can actually be a weakness.
Really? Why is that?
Because when people know what to expect from you, they can easily counter your moves. They might take you for granted, manipulate you, or even undermine your authority.
So it's about keeping them on their toes. Always keeping them guessing.
Exactly. Greene says a certain degree of unpredictability, it keeps people off balance, makes them wary of crossing you, makes them more eager to please you. It creates an aura of power and mystery.
This would be a little bit of an enigma, huh?
I like that. And Greene uses Queen Elizabeth I to illustrate this law. She was a master at this. She would shift alliances, play favorites, make these unexpected decisions.
She kept everyone guessing.
She did, and it strengthened her grip on power. It's like she was playing a constant game of psychological chess.
Always thinking a few moves ahead. Okay, I'm starting to see how powerful this could be.
It is powerful. But remember, it's about being strategic. Using unpredictability deliberately. Don't be transparent. Keep them guessing, but always stay in control.
Wow, we've covered so much ground today. And honestly, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, but also like strangely empowered. It's like I've been given a secret decoder ring for understanding the world.
I'm glad to hear that. That's exactly what Greene's laws can do. They give you a framework for understanding power dynamics.
And it's not about being manipulative, right? It's about being aware.
Exactly. It's about making conscious choices, navigating the complexities of power with more intention and strategy.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we've reached the end of our deep dive into Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Thank you so much for guiding us through this fascinating and a little bit terrifying exploration.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, listeners, the game of power is always being played, whether we're aware of it or not. The key is to understand the rules, to know the players, and to play strategically. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and of course, stay powerful.